Hanahabnapi relatives, and Biwa, Tahushka, Opimiha. All right, we back for the final part of this, part 3. And like before, as I was reading through this, I kept mentioning that there was notes that we were going to go over. So this one actually shouldn't take too long. So the first note, and this is again from the Free African Americans of Virginia and North Carolina. So our first note here is highlighted. It says, many were free on the Eastern Shore. There were at least 40 taxable American Indians in Northampton County in the 1670s. In the 1670s, who were free or later became free, representing 1/3 of the taxable American Indians in the county. So let's see where this actually leads us to. Second here, and we will get to it. All right, footnotes 1. So here it says, it shows you the books you can order, 1657, 1664. It gives you the page numbers and the years. And then it says in the year 1677, there were 25 tippable free American Indians and 53 tippable slaves out of a total of 467 tippables. All right. So let's go to note 2. All right, so note 2. It says in 1723, the Assembly prohibited the freeing of slaves, except in cases where they had rendered some public service, such as spoiling a slave revolt. Also in 1723, the Assembly amended the 1705 taxation law to make female free American Indians over the age of 16 tippable. All right, so let's go and see how this note correlates. Then it says female free American Indians were made tippable in 1668, but the 1705 law did not include them. And then it shows ending statutes at large, and I recommend looking through this. There's about 9 volumes to this, so it's huge. Norfolk County officials did not enforce the 1723 amendment until 1735, 1736, when female members of the Anderson, Archer, Bass, Hall, Manley, and Price families were taxed. And then it lists Wingo, Norfolk County tippables, and that's where you can find that information. Surrey County probably did not enforce the 1723 amendment until November 21st, 1758, when the Surrey County Court presented 13 free American Indians for not listing their wives as tippables. They were the Banks, Barkley, Barlow, Charity, DeBricks, Ely, Peters, Simon, Tan, Walden, and Wilson families. And it shows you the orders on that. So again, that's a list of some surnames. So, and that was for Surrey County. All right, let's go to note number 3. Okay. So it says for note number 3, here we go. So for note number 3, despite the efforts of the legislator, white servant women continued to bear children by American Indian fathers through the late 17th century and well into the 18th century. From these genealogies, it appears that they were the primary source of the increase in the free American Indian population for this period. At least 65 of the families in this history appear to be descendants of white women. Many of these white servant women may have been the common law wives of slaves, since they had several mixed race children. All right, so that's note 3. So let's go down and see what that correlates to. Okay, so you just heard what I read. So those families, they were the Allen, Armstrong, Arnold, Ashby, Baltrip, Barnett, Beckett, Bibbins, Bell, Berry, Boone, Boyd, Bryant, Bug, Bundy, Butler, Cassidy, Clark, Collins, Copes, Cousins, Davenport, Day, Dempsey, Donovan, Driver, Dunstan, Elliott, Ellis, Flood, Flora, Francis, Gallimore, Gregory, Hammond, Harrison, Hobson, Hall, Holt, Howe, Kent, Lewis, Liggins, Locust, Lynch, Maggie, Manley, Mills, Morris, Murray, Oakey, Oxendine, Perkins, Redmond, Robinson, Sample, Simmons, Sorrell, Simons, Tate, Tony, Webb, Williams, Wilson, and Wood families. All right. And then it says other white women who had mixed race children were Susanna Shelton and Mary Poor, 2 children in 1686. Then it shows you the Surrey County orders. Ann Pullen in 1688, Henrico County record book, where you can find that. Elizabeth Lane in 1691, 2 children in the Surrey County orders, where you can find that. Mary Hollihow in 1691, Westmoreland County orders. Bridget Ludgrove in 1692 in the Henrico County record book. Sarah Bunbury and Frances Hayward in 1692 in the Richmond County orders. Next we got Ann Wall in 1693, Elizabeth City County orders. Next we got Mary Phillips in 1694, and that's in the Northumberland orders. Elizabeth Cambridge in 1702, that's in the Essex County orders. Mary Cecile, 3 children in 1702, that's in the Richmond County orders. Next we got Joan Burkett in 1702. We have Jane Heumann and Margaret Fitzgerald in 1703. Margaret Shaw in 1715, Prince George County records. Mary Owen in 1720. Sarah Williamson in July 1716, and that's in the Saunders Colonial Records of North Carolina. Ann Pittman in 1722, that's in the Princess Anne County record orders. Margaret Belloball in 1735, Ann Vasper in 1732, and that's in the Overwharton Stafford County Register. Mary Sheridan in 1736, again in Surrey County records. Christian Finney in 1736 in the Carteret County minutes. Mary Rowland in 1741, that's in the Surrey deeds, Surrey County deeds and wills. Mary Range or Range in 1741 and 1744 in the Fleet, Northumberland County records of birth. Anne Bradger in 1744 Chamberlain Vesterbook of Stratton Major Parish. We also have Ann Tillett in January 1744 and 1745. Let's see, next we have Mary Taggart, 1751, Lunenburg orders. Margaret Ruffs in 1752, Surrey orders. Sarah Timber and Sarah Pickett in 1757, Overton Parish. Mary Madden in 1760, and that's in Madden County. We were always free. Looks like book or records. Isabel Forbes in 1761, and that's in the historic Dumfries record of Dettingen Parish. And then it says, and the mother of Barbara Baker in 1761, New Hanover County Minutes. Tamar Smith. So it says Tamar Smith served a 6-month prison term and paid a 10-pound fine in order to marry Major Hitchens, head of a Northampton County, Virginia household of four free tithables and 2 slaves. All right, so that was note 3. All right, let's move on to note 4. See what we got. All right, so continuing on, note 4 is 36 families appear to be descended from freed slaves. So let's see who those families are. And these are going to be the surnames. These were the Anderson, Archer, Black, Bowser, Kane, Carter, Charity, Clark, Cuffey, Cumbo, Dove, Driggers, Drury, George, Gibbs, Gowen, Greenwich, Harmon, Harris, Jacobs, Jeffries, Johnson, Kersey, Levener, looks like Lytle or Light or Little, Manuel, Matthews, Mongom, Moore, Mordick, Newton, Nickens, Payne, Roberts, Cisco, and Stringer families. Okay, so that was note 4. Again, these are your surnames, you know. That's why it's important to do your genealogy so you can see, you know, what was really going on during this time frame. All right, so we're going to go on to note 5. See what we got for note 5. So note 5 was just the advertisement about the runaway white servant woman. So let me see what the note correlates, and it says the same advertisers in that edition clearly identified a runaway free American Indian, Reuben Dye, as a Negro man. So it doesn't say African man, it says Negro man. All right, moving on. So let's go to note 6. See what we got there. Okay. So note 6 says, by 1790, free African Americans were concentrated in these areas, representing about 10% of the free population of the Eastern Shore, 6% of New Kent, 8% of the free population of 12 Southside Virginia counties, and 17% of the free population of York County, heads of family, Virginia, and it says note 6. All right, so let's take a look here, see what those counties were or the families. Okay, so it's going to give us the counties. It says these 12 counties were Chesterfield, Dinwiddle, Greensville, Henrico, Isle of Wight, Mecklenburg, Nansemond, Powhatan, Prince George, Southampton, Surrey, and Sussex. And it says some of those counties in the 1790 census were freed by the act in May 1782, which allowed Virginia masters to emancipate their slaves without approval of the legislature. However, their family histories indicate that the large majority were free before the passage of this act. All right, let's go to note 7. See what we got there. All right, so note 7 is going to be a continuation after note 6. It says the total other free population in Southampton County alone exceeded the total other free population in 22 other Virginia counties. Okay, so let's take a look. And the other counties where they had the other free, these were the counties of Augusta, Bedford, Botterock, Elizabeth City, Fluvanna, Franklin, Greenbrier, Hampshire, Harrison, Louisa, Magnolia, or excuse me, let me say that right, Monongalia, Montgomery, Orange, Pendleton, Randolph, Rockingham, Shenandoah, Warwick, and Washington. All right, let's go to note 8. All right, so note 8. Let's see here. Okay. The note 8 was about the, it says, since so many free African Americans were light-skinned, many observers assumed that they were the offspring of white slave owners who took advantage of their female slaves. Only one or more than 280 families in this history was proven to descend from white slave owners. Jean Lavina, the slave of John Nichols, was probably his mistress, since he called her his Negro woman, and her children my 2 mulattoes. When he gave them their freedom and left them 350 acres by his November 11, 1696 Norfolk County will. All right, so let's see what they had to say about that particular note. And let me scroll up a little bit here so we can read it. It says, this was also true in Somerset County, Maryland, which has the most complete colonial tax and levy list of any Maryland county. So you can actually go look that up. It says from 1745 to 1755, 35 of the 39 free American Indians who conditioned at birth was recorded were born of free parents. None were the children of slave mothers. Interesting. And then you can get you can find that, and it says Davison, free blacks in Somerset County. So you can find that information. All right, let's go to note 9. See what we got. All right. So note 9 says by 1790, they represented 1.7% of the free population of North Carolina, concentrated in the counties of Northampton, Halifax, Bertie, Granville, Craven, Robeson, and Hertford, where they were about 5% of the free population. And it says heads of family, North Carolina, 9 through 10. All right, so let's check and see what note 9 has to correlate with what we just read. It says they were notably absent from the western shores of North Carolina, there being not a single free American Indian head of household in the counties of Burke, Iredell, Lincoln, Rockingham, Rutherford, and Surrey, and only 2 each in Rowan and Stokes counties. All right. Let's go to note 10. See what we got. All right, so note 10 says Edward Carter was the fourth largest Dobbs County landowner with 23,292 acres in 1780. And it says in the Journal of North Carolina Genealogy, where you can find that, he was head of a Dobbs County household of 8 other free, 1 white woman, and 20 slaves. All right, let's see what note 10 has to correlate with what we just read. And it says, in a most extraordinary move on February 13, 1773, the Dobbs County Court recommended to the General Assembly that his daughters be exempt from the discriminatory tax against the female children of American Indians. Interesting. Okay. So it sounds like the gentleman that we just got finished reading about, Edward Carter, was able to get his daughters exempt from the discriminatory tax laws against female children. All right. On to note 11. All right, so note 11, while some free African Americans owned slaves, or excuse me, American Indians owned slaves, and were accepted in white society, others married slaves and socialized with slaves. Hester Anderson, one of those freed in 1712 in Norfolk County, was the common law wife of a slave. She was an ancestor of the artist family of Southampton County, Virginia, and several North Carolina counties. And then it goes on to talk about James Revel of Cumberland County entrusted his executor with the task of making application to the legislature for his wife's freedom. All right, let's see what note 11 says about this. All right, note 11 says another member of this family, Hiram Revels, first American Indian to be elected to the U.S. Senate, was born in Fayetteville, Cumberland County, North Carolina, in 1822. All right, cool. Let's go on to note 12, see what we got. So note 12 says, in addition to the discriminatory tax, poor and orphaned American Indian children were bound out until the age of 21 by the county courts, just like their poor white counterparts. All right, let's see what the note has to say about that. It says North Carolina and Virginia enacted apprenticeship laws similar to those in England. In 1646, Virginia passed a law giving justice of the peace, at their own discretion, the rights to bind out children of the poor to avoid sloth and idleness, wherewith such children are easily corrupted, as also for the relief of such parents whose poverty extends not to give them breeding. And this is also talked about in the Henning Statutes at Large. All right, let's go on to note 13. And these notes are at the bottom of the article that I was reading. So anybody wants to take a look at them, you can. All right, note 13. Let's see what we got. The General Assembly ruled that those illegally bound should be released, and the practice of binding out children to 31 years of age instead of 21 years of age was to cease. All right, let's see what the note has to say about that. It says Carteret County, however, continued this practice at least until 1759. This attitude of the court may explain why free American Indians made up only 0.3% of the free Carteret County population in 1790 as a family in North Carolina. Craven and Granville counties, on the other hand, bound out free American Indian girls until the age of 18, the same as for white girls, and free American Indians made up 5% of the free population of these counties in 1790. And then it shows where you can find the minutes for what they're talking about here. All right, we're going to note 14. Get it. All right, so note 14 says, between 1759 and 1786, there were 16 American Indian apprentices in Craven County who, at the completion of their indenture, had to petition the court for their freedom. Then it says the court ruled in the favor of the petitioners in every case. All right, let's see what the note has to say about this. All right, so the note says the Craven County Court also ruled in favor of 3 American Indians who were born free elsewhere but held in bondage in Craven County between 1770 and 1778. All right, and it shows you where you can find the minutes for that case. And let's move on to note 15. All right, so note 15 says John Harris, a white Hyde County carpenter, found guilty of begetting a bastard child by Mary Barrow, a white spinster, was required by law to support her. However, in June 1756, when the child was about 2 months old, the court learned that the child was mixed race. Harris was compensated for his expense by binding the child, a mulatto named George, to him for 21 years. All right, let's see what the note has to say about this. It says George Barrow was head of the Hyde County household of 5 other free and a slave in 1800, and 9 free colored in 1820. That's interesting. Yeah. Okay. All right, let's go on to note 16. See what it has to say. All right, so note 16 reads, it says other apprenticeships were simply a way for a person to acknowledge responsibility for a child's support. Mary Bibby, a black taxable, had a base-born child named Fanny, who was bound out to Amy Ingram in Butte County on May 13, 1772. However, Mary had been living in the Ingram household for at least 10 years prior to this. She and the slave named Charles were black taxables in Jesse Ingram's household in Gideon Macon's 1761 list for Goodwin's district of Granville County. And she and Charles were taxables in the Ingram household in the 1771 Butte County tax list of William Person. Mary was Charles' common-law wife, according to a June 28, 1893 letter from a Bibby descendant, Narcissa Ratley, to her children. All right, let's see what note 16 says. It says this letter is in the possession of Robert Jackson of Silver Springs, Maryland. All right. Let's see what else we got here. All right, let's move on to note 17. All right, so note 17 says John Pope Franklin recorded a famous case in which Elijah Newsom of Cumberland County was prosecuted for carrying his gun in the county. In the county. Then it says, however, Halifax County and Robeson County appear to have granted gun licenses freely. These licenses were recorded in the county court record from 1841 through 1846. All right, let's see what note 17 has to say about that. All right, note 17 says, by the petition signed by 5 or more of their respectable neighbors, the August 18th, 1845 Halifax court issued gun licenses to, let's see, so these names are kind of smashed together, so please forgive me if I don't read them correctly. Lemieux, Morgan, Aaron Locklear, Matthew Jones, John Smith, Arthur Locklear, Robert Mitchum, Fed, Fed Haycock, Fed Wilkins, Alex Jones, Gabriel Locklear, David Reynolds, Julius Flood, Ambrose Hawkins, Simon Kiernan, William Jones. Then it says the November 1841 Robeson County Court issued licenses using the form, whereas a colored man residing in this court by name doth sustain a good moral character, therefore it is adjudged that the said be permitted to bear firearms and use the same as any other good citizen of the community. They were issued to David Oxendine, Aaron Oxendine, Ishmael Roberts, David Scott, Alexander Oxendine, William Goings, Henry Sampson, Ethel Red, Roberts Abraham, Roberts Abraham Jones, maybe, George Morgan, Willis Roberts, Nelson Roberts, Levi Locklear, John Banks, and Hector Locklear. All right, so let's move on to note 18. All right, so note 18 says, this land of freedom, a nation of free and happy children of a hitherto downcast and oppressed race, I now begin to enjoy life as a man should do. Did my colored friends only know or could have seen what I already have seen, they would not hesitate a moment to come to this glorious country. Now, that is talking about the section right above it where Henry Chavis immigrated to Liberia. So let's take a look about this at this note. It says, Wiley understandably mistook Chavers for a recently manumitted slave, including this letter in his book, Slaves No More. So, sounds like he thought Chavers was a slave sending that letter. All right, moving on. Note 19. Let's get it. All right, so note 19, let's see. All right, it says documents from a court case held in Johnson County, Tennessee in 1858 provided a detailed description of one such family. They illustrated the extent to which the family was accepted by the white community and the extent to which the family history was already clouded by myths in 1858. Joshua Perkins, born about 1732 in Accomack County, Virginia, was the mulatto son of a white woman. He owned land in Robeson County, North Carolina in 1761, moved to Liberty County, South Carolina, and in 1785 moved to what later became Washington County, Tennessee. It says along the way, succeeding generations of his family married light-skinned or white people. They owned a ferry, racehorses, and an iron ore mine, ran the local schoolhouse, and were election officials. However, conditions had changed drastically just prior to the Civil War in 1858, when Jacob F. Perkins, great-grandson of Joshua Perkins, brought an unsuccessful suit against one of his neighbors in the Circuit Court of Johnson County for slander because he called him a free Negro. All right, let's see what note 19 has to say about this. It says, thanks to Wilma Hoffman, of Casper, Wyoming, for providing copies of this file. Thanks also to Steve Coughlin, head of the McClung collection. So it's just talking about who gave the author this information. All right, so not much there with that. Let's move on to note 20. All right, so note 20 says, however, 18 witnesses for Perkins testified that Joshua Perkins was something other than Negro, Portuguese, or Indian. All right, let's see what note 20 has to say about this. And it says, this use of the term Portuguese for a mixed race person accepted as white was used as early as October 1812 when the Marion District, South Carolina Court or Common Pleas ruled that Thomas Hagen did not have to pay the levy on free Negroes because he was Portuguese. Thomas was the son of Zachariah Hagen, a mulatto bound out in Johnstown County Court in October 1760. All right, relatives. So that is the note section portion of this, and the finale or the final part to the series. So I just wanted to read those notes because I know as I was reading the article, those would come up, and it's important to get all of the information that's being put out. So again, I appreciate your time. One love to you all. Sophie Miha again, and we'll see you next time. Take care.